I are back again to talk about the new moon in Aries for this next lunar cycle, and of course a whole lot of other things too. So yeah, take it away, Babula. What's happening from new moon in Aries on Friday, isn't it?
Yes, on Friday afternoon, Brisbane time, and the east coast of Australia.
And that date would be
the 1st, April the 1st.
Yeah.
April the 1st. I know.
Yeah.
Which we like to call, April Fool's Day, especially. What do they say up till noon? I think they say is.
And then it reverses.
Right.
It reverses, you're the fool.
Right. Okay, I haven't heard that part.
Yeah.
Okay, so the sun's now in Aries, and on April the 1st, the moon will also be in Aries and will join up with the sun at 11 degrees of Aries. So, every month we have a new moon cycle in the next sign. So, this means we're completing the Pisces lunar cycle and beginning a new Aries phase. Now, the sun moved into Aries on the 21st of March, which we spoke of last time as a very important time in the astrological annual calendar. It's really the birth of the new year for astrologers. It is the start of the new year, 0 degrees of Aries. And so this new moon in Aries is, like some would even say this is actually the start of the year because it's the new moon starting this Aries lunar cycle. So Aries is, we regard it as the first sign of the zodiac. And if you know any Aries people or people with strong Aries energies in their chart.
I do.
Yes, I have a little bit in me and I have it around me. I've seen it many times. And it's that impulse in us to step into the new. Aries is always ready for the next new thing, the next new thing, the next new thing. And they're trailblazers, pioneers, pushing through barriers and I've literally seen this and experienced this. If an Aries comes up with an idea, which they do, they're often entrepreneurial in their thinking. There's always like the next idea. And if someone says, oh, you can't do that, that won't work, that's like waving a red flag at a bull to an Aries to say, well, you just watch me, and they'll go and do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's a sign that it's a fire sign. It's a cardinal fire sign. It has to initiate something new, birth something new, create something new, have a new idea, the spark of the new. Because in Pisces, we're completing a cycle and we're emptying out the old. And then we're sort of ready for this whole new energy that comes in with Aries.
Well, in Pisces, we're sort of dreaming about things, aren't we? We're dreaming about them and the possibilities, and our mind is sort of wandering all over the place and feeling our way through something, maybe a possible project where we're weighing things up. How do I feel about it? But when it gets into Aries, it's like action.
Let's go. That's right.
It's
ready
like
now.
Snapping the thing on the movies. Action.
Yes, and it's like suddenly the fog clears, or all that sort of gestation. Pisces is a bit like the womb. Things are just gestating, and certain things are being released and let go of, and he's like, is this? Is it that? And then Aries it's like a fire starter, a kickstarter, an injection of new energy, of a new impulse. And that doesn't, Aries, and people often say this about Aries, I hear it all the time. Aries is not the sign that sees things through to completion. That's not its role. Its function is to get something moving, to kickstart it. It's like off the starter block, go. It's the green light, go. And so this new moon in Aries at 11 degrees of Aries, and as we know, new moons, every 4 weeks, the new moon is a new beginning. For that month, it's the beginning of a new cycle. And when it's Aries, it's like a double new beginning.
Yes.
So what are we birthing? What impulse is moving? And it moves quickly. It's not a slow sign. It moves fast. Like so many people I've met in my life over the years who have Aries rising tell me that their birth was really, really quick. They were born really, their mum barely made it to hospital, or they're born in the back seat of the taxi,
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Because they just like, it's long, almost like that that soul, that child just can't wait to get out. Come on, let's get on with it. We've started this thing. Let's go.
Yeah.
I can feel myself even, feeling the Aries energy as I'm talking about it.
Yeah, and it's quite passionate too, isn't it? It's like I was saying before about projects. It's like we've been thinking, feeling and dreaming our way through a possibility, and then the passion kicks in for that project to start.
That's right.
And then we run with it,
That's right. And Aries doesn't look for a plan. It doesn't need any guarantees. It's that impulse to do it. That Nike slogan that came out, oh God, in the 90s, I think, and it said, just do it.
Yeah.
And at that time, I knew an Aries woman very well, and she went straight out and bought the T-shirt. She had to have that T-shirt that said, just do it, blazoned across.
Yeah.
It is. And Aries is not the sign that says, right, now we need a 5-year plan for this project. No. It figures it out in the doing of it.
Yeah, it's the sprinter in the race. It's not the marathon runner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then at some point they go, okay, been there, done that, what's next? And they might leave a trail of unfinished projects behind them. But if they're smart, they'll have some earth sign people around them who can see that through to completion.
Right.
So they're on to the next idea and the next project.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I've when I meet people and I get to know them a bit more, you can see the starter, doer, finisher.
Yes.
The personality profile. These people always start things, but they may not necessarily finish them, but it's the birth of it, and it's the creation of it, and the passion about it, and the enjoyment of vivifying something, bringing
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing that people start things but don't finish, but we do know people like that who have many projects in the house, just ordinary daily projects. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'll start it. Then there's this trail or a wake of where they've been.
Unfinished projects.
Yes.
Exactly. And so, that's where astrology can help. If we understand ourselves, if we understand that we're like that, and this impulse to create and begin, go for it. But make sure, if you really are serious about it and want it to be completed, don't expect yourself to do it, because you're going to get bored if you're an Aries.
Yeah. Actually, if you were a project manager, it'd be good to have different astrological signs in to make sure it happened.
Absolutely, because it's the earth signs that love to see things through to completion. That's what they do, but that's not Aries' job. So if we bring that into the, in the energy field now with this Aries new moon, what impulse are we experiencing in our own lives or in ourselves? And of course, we consider, where is this taking, what house in our own chart is this happening? So what area of life will this be going on? What is the impulse that's going to be beginning in us and stirring in us? What new ideas? And it doesn't mean it's born fully formed. It's just the beginning, just the first couple of steps, So go for it. This is a time to go. Like, I've been thinking about this thing, and will I or won't I? And suddenly we just go, just do it. And don't think it through too much. So, and of course, the other thing about Aries that we must address, which we will see around us and in the world around us, it is by its nature, it's ruled by Mars. There's a certain aggression in Aries. And aggression, it gets a really bad rap, but sometimes we need a bit of fiery, feisty assertiveness or aggression. Sometimes we even, sometimes it's actually appropriate to get angry, because that fire can push through something that's a bit stuck, a situation, a circumstance, a relationship dynamic, or something that's going on that's a bit stuck. And suddenly that spark of fire kicks in and goes, right, I'm not putting up with that anymore, or need to do this, and bang,
Yeah.
So, yes, so we might find ourselves feeling a bit stirred up, a bit fiery, a bit feisty, a bit agitated as this energy kicks in. But there's a really important other piece to this new moon, and that is that this new moon forms a very, very close conjunction. That is, it's right next to the planet Chiron. So the new moon, sun and moon, are at 11 degrees of Aries, and Chiron is at 12 degrees of Aries. That's very close. It's a very tight. So we cannot speak of this new moon without bringing in the story of Chiron.
Yes.
And this just adds so much, because we speak of Chiron as the archetype of the wounded healer. And, you know, I could talk for hours about Chiron. There's so much to say about it. But, you know, in mythology, his story is so rich and so meaningful and so full of symbolism and you know, different layers and levels and expressions and so on. So Chiron represents the ways we experience wounding, and all human beings experience wounding. There's the woundings of separation, of childhood issues, spiritual wounds, you know, just feeling wounded as a human being living in this crazy world we live in, or, you know, stuff from childhood, core wounds, karmic wounds. And also it can manifest on the physical level as illnesses or physical injuries. And when Chiron's in Aries, which Chiron is now for these 9 years, already been here for a couple of years, Chiron's affecting us all for this 9-year period. This new moon is right on that point. So it's a Chironic new moon. So this can manifest in many different ways, because it will be different for everyone. But I think, you know, when Chiron is in Aries, some of the wounding can occur around themes of assertion, aggression, conflict, violence, war, those kinds of things. Aries is like pure masculine energy. It's ruled by Mars, something to do with dynamics with men, with males. So it can stir up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and it's to do with the head too, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the physical body, medically, Aries is absolutely the whole of the head, the brain itself.
Yeah.
The red blood cells, you know, there's a lot of issues around people's blood going on.
Yes, there is.
You know, and the muscles, you know, Aries is born to move. You know, Aries is physical and dynamic, and it must move and use its energy. Because if it's not, it can build up tremendous frustration and anger and irritation.
Yeah.
So I think one of the healing energies we can bring in when Chiron's in Aries, and this new moon's going to really highlight this, is we need to physically move our bodies to move stuck energy. Injuries can happen, you know, like wounds, cuts, accidents, where you know, there's bleeding or there's an injury to the body. That's very Chiron in Aries as well. So not everyone's going to have that happen, of course. I'm just expressing some of the ways this might manifest. Yeah,
I'm thinking about surgery as well.
Surgery, exactly. And for some, it might be like there's a sudden, and this can be more relevant to individuals when that, like 11, 12 degrees or close to it of Aries is very highlighted in someone's chart. Like there might be a planet there or the ascendant or a node or something. And so they're getting a direct hit or a direct trigger from this Chiron new moon. That might, you know, be more pertinent to them specifically. Yeah. But, you know, if we consider this new moon to be setting the theme for the coming 4 weeks for this whole lunar cycle has this Chironic theme. We know the issue of war is currently up.
Yes.
And, you know, we don't know how that's going to continue to unfold and so on. And you know, we saw recently that incident at the Oscars. And the thing is, like, you can read different opinions about what happened and what didn't happen. And there's like 100 different opinions. And, you know, who knows really what was going on there. There's so many different things that we don't know about that story. But that moment of supposedly real or not, I can't tell. I still am 50-50 about that, and it doesn't really matter anyway. You know, that moment of supposed aggression is like an Aries. Because in Aries, we can get triggered. It can get triggered like a match. Bam.
And for those who don't know what we're talking about, we're talking about where the Oscars, where Will Smith took offence to something that Chris Rock said from the stage about Will Smith's wife. Will Smith got up, walked onto the stage and punched Chris Rock in the face, or slapped him. I don't know whether it was a slap or a punch, but anyway.
Yeah, and there's lots of speculation about whether that was all a performance, whether it was real, whether it was not, and so on, and what it was about and what's going on behind it, and so on and so on. So we can see these sort of demonstrations on display, because everybody, a lot of people are talking. I mean, I didn't even watch the Oscars, but you know, it's all over social media, so you pretty well can't miss it if you're watching that stuff. It'll be on mainstream as well.
But it's a good example of what you're talking about.
It's an example, exactly.
And it's quick and it snaps.
Exactly. And it was completely out of the blue, seemingly. If it was staged, then it wasn't out of the blue, but it appeared to be out of the blue.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. And
very interesting.
I'm not going to talk about Will Smith anymore.
No. Let's leave that. But it just came to me. I thought, this is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we might see more things like that. We might even see it around us. We might see it just walking down the street. You know,
people punching out each other, or
things can happen. And I think that presence of Chiron, like Chiron's to me a very, very important energy or planet, and it's about healing. It's about healing wounds, and Chiron's message is always to take the Band-Aid off. The Band-Aid won't fix this wound. We have to, and I actually a few years ago started calling the Chironic wound like a sacred wound, a holy wound. It's a great teacher. And if we are willing to enter the wound and go into that wound and go on a healing journey, we can go through tremendously powerful transformation and awakening. He's like a key or a shamanic doorway.
Yes.
To other levels of consciousness, if we're willing to do the work and do the healing and the transformation that he asks of us.
Yes.
And that means facing the pain, whatever that is.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is an important theme for this lunar cycle that we're coming into. And there's another planet right here as well, and that's Mercury at 9 degrees of Aries. Wow. So Mercury, of course, is communication.
Yeah.
And when Mercury's in Aries, which it is now, you know, where we speak fast, we think fast, where, you know, it's coming really, you know, I'm aware that I kind of feel a bit sped up, you know, while I'm talking about Aries. It's like you got so much to say and you want to get it all out. And and Aries is direct, you know, the communication style. Any of you watching have Mercury in Aries, you'll know this. It's straight to the point. It can even be words that cut, you know, sharp words. They just, it's wanting to just speak straight and direct.
Yes, yeah. I often find that people, Aries people, Sun people, they're often quite verbose too. They tend to, the ones I know tend to say a lot. They're not chattering like Gemini, for example, but they often have a lot of things to say, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, right, got it, good, okay, right, got it, good. Interesting. When they're going to finish.
That's really interesting, and that could be particularly so if they've got Mercury in Aries, because Mercury is always close to the sun.
Yes, yeah.
It's either in the same sign or the one just before or the one after.
Yes.
So, you know, fire has a lot of energy, doesn't it? Fire is energy.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of energy to speak and communicate, and and it might want to even almost speak over the top of you, like, you know, impatient. They want to finish your sentences because, come on, get on with it. I've got things to say.
That's true. Yeah. Not only things to say, I got things to do. Come on.
And things to do. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait around for you. I'm off.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. So there's a lot of energy here. So it'd be very interesting. But that Chiron is a very important piece of theme here.
Yeah. So, sorry, the Chiron in Aries, when did it go into Aries?
Oh, I forget the year. It would have been about roughly 4 years ago.
4 years ago. Okay. Right.
Yeah, or maybe, 4 years ago. I actually quite forget right now.
So maybe 5 or 6 years to go.
So, yes, that's right. That's right.
Mm.
So it is an important background theme for everybody during this period of time.
Yeah.
Through most of the 2020s, a large part of it.
Yes. And when you think of what's been happening on the world stage in that time, it sort of fits in, doesn't it?
That's right. There's a lot of conflict and a lot of, issues and themes around health and healing and what is it and so on. So this is an important new moon for two reasons. That it's the first new moon of the astrological year. It's in Aries, a sign of birthing the new, and it's conjunct Chiron. So that's a pretty major, piece. And another little piece of information about Chiron. One of the themes of Chiron is that in his story, in the mythology, it's a wonderful story and very rich. He's always, one of his wounds is feeling like an outsider, on the outside of what's regarded as normal, the status quo. What's one of his wounds is that he's so unique and such a unique individual. There's nobody else like him. Like, where do I belong? Where do I fit? He's a centaur. He's not fully a horse. He's not fully human. He doesn't even belong in the tribe of centaurs because he has this tremendous knowledge and these tremendous gifts that they don't have. So he lives separately from them. He's immortal. His father is a god, but he's not welcome in the realm of the gods. Like, where's my people? So part of that feeling like a misfit, like an outsider, can be one of the wounds that we experience around Chiron.
Yeah. I think that's very true. And I'm just thinking about Chiron, not a horse, not a man. So he's in that in-between state, which is where the shamans travel and communicate with the spirits and all those sorts of things. Yeah.
That's right. And that Chiron's very much like that. It's like he's got a foot in all these different dimensions. And like shamans do, I see him as very shamanic. And that's part of his gift, but it also means he's different. Like a shaman, he's might live in, just traditionally would live in the tribe with the people, but he's different. He has access to these other realms and has animal, is very connected to the animal realm.
Yeah, and they don't actually, traditionally, they don't actually live with the tribe. They live on the outskirts of the tribe. They have their own separate place. So,
yes,
and they have to maintain that to be able to fulfill their role, to see things objectively and not get drawn into everything. Yeah,
that's right. And that's right. So it's a very kind of multi-layered theme, the whole theme around Chiron. So this is an important new moon cycle that we're coming into. Okay. Now the other thing I want to say about the month of April, just in general, before we sort of go through the dates, is that since about mid-January, no planets are retrograde through to the end of April. And right at the end of April, Pluto will turn retrograde. And then in the coming couple of months, steadily each planet will start to turn retrograde. And then we'll go through quite a big period of a lot of retrograde planets. So for April, there are no planets retrograde. It's the month of Aries. So things, and we're all feeling it. Things are moving so fast, aren't they?
Yeah. Compared to where we were.
That's right.
We're sort of like just laying around, not really doing a whole lot of physical work. Maybe it's some mental work. But now it's like, boom, we're off.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, so on April the 5th, Mars, who, we're still in that Venus-Mars conjunction period. Venus, the faster moving planet's beginning to separate away from Mars. And they've both been traveling quite closely with Saturn over this last week or two. On April the 5th, there is an exact conjunction of Mars with Saturn at 22 degrees of Aquarius. Now, traditionally, Mars and Saturn are both regarded, they would traditionally call them malefics, meaning they're two planets that traditionally are considered to be difficult. Mars difficult because it can represent and express as aggression and anger and fight, you know, a bit of a troublemaker in that way. And Saturn difficult because Saturn's all about constraints and difficulties and restrictions and rules and regulations. And, you know, it's a tightening kind of an energy, a contracting energy. When they come together, you know, when two planets like that come together, it's not a particularly easy combination. So that's the date that it's exact. But around that whole week or two, you know, Mars and Saturn are traveling very close together. So, but there are always positive things that can come out of something like this. So traditionally, Mars and Saturn can represent a kind of military energy. Now, I often think like Mars is the warrior, the soldier, the foot soldier. Mars and Saturn is like the general, you know, organizing the whole military campaign and all the discipline that the soldiers have to go to be finely tuned fighting machine. You know, Mars Saturn's like a fighting machine almost. You know, themes around controlling Mars, you know, Saturn. But on a positive note, Mars and Saturn can be used in a very constructive, focused, disciplined way. Like if we have a project that we're trying to get off the ground, like we can really focus our attention, focus our mind, get very organized, get very structured, be very disciplined about the way we go about whatever it might be. It's at 22 degrees of Aquarius. It can push us almost to the limits, you know, of what we think we can endure. Like I'm very aware of, you know, this new level of flooding that's going on in northern New South Wales. I mean, how much more can these people take?
Yes.
They are being pushed to the limit, you know, and just beginning to get to some level of recovery, and here we go again. It's just unthinkable. I mean, I don't know what'll still be happening with that by April the 5th, but that's sort of one of the things, like you just have to keep going. You just have to keep going. It's that sort of energy. So that's quite strong.
I'm also thinking, Babula, about Mars conjuncting Saturn in Aquarius, how that will affect the freedom movement.
Well, yes.
You know, restricting, you know, that freedom-loving Aquarian energy that's, and we've been through that. We've been through all those restrictions, and I'm just wondering whether that's going to trigger that again.
It could do.
Yeah.
It
Sort of
could do. Yeah, it could do. And then there could be a strong reaction to that and a strong pushback to that.
Yes.
You know? That's right. Because, you know, Mars, of course, can really stir up agitation and anger and frustration, and, you know, meets Saturn, meets the brick wall, meets the constraint, meets the consequences of the heavy hand of whatever, you know, the law, the government.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a strong combination. But again, I say it's something that we can use to have tremendous focus. But, you know, so it could be for some, it could be like a week of just working really hard for whatever reason, you know, whatever, or a week of extra responsibilities. And then when that energy starts to dissipate and Mars moves away, suddenly you feel like, oh, okay, I'm glad that's passed. You know, I can relax again now for a while.
Yeah.
It's quite strong.
Yes.
But on April the 6th, the day after, Venus moves into Pisces, which is a completely different energy altogether. So that'll be happening while the Mars-Saturn conjunction is still going on.
That's interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So, Venus loves being in Pisces. She's very happy there. We say in astrology that Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces, meaning it's not her sign of rulership. She rules Libra and Taurus, but it's almost like it's like she's an honored guest in the sign of Pisces. When we're at home in our own house, we're at home. Mars is in its own sign, a planet's in its own sign. When we're welcomed as an honored guest and we just are made to feel really at home and comfortable, but it's not our place, but we're really comfortable there. That's like an exaltation. So Venus is very happy in Pisces. And if we think of the myth of Aphrodite, Venus, she was born out of the ocean, and in the myth, she sort of drifted onto the land on a big shell, and the angels and cherubs are all guiding her, and she steps onto the land and the flowers are growing at her feet, but it's like she comes out of the sea almost.
Yes.
And so that's Venus in Pisces. So it's Venus being the feminine principle of love, of beauty, of relationship, of harmony, of connecting, of the heart. In Pisces, it can bring a lot of compassion. We can be feeling perhaps quite emotional in relationships. We may, it's also a really good time to take a bit of time out if we can. Mind you, remember we're in the Aries month. So Aries is going to be go, go, go. But I think, just taking time out to listen to some beautiful music and just do things that are really beautiful and soul nourishing and relaxing, or for people who are in relationship, making sure you spend time with your partner to just chill and just hang out, and have a bit of a break from things.
Yeah.
Art.
Nice. I'm there already.
There you go. It's a beautiful one for any kind of artistic expression. Venus in Pisces is so creative. It's like the muse is just right there. Intuition, creativity, music, any form of art. Yeah. April the 11th, Mercury leaves Aries. So Mercury is moving through Aries pretty quickly, where Mercury communication is more fiery and fast and immediate.
Yep.
I just had this thought, because I now live with my two little grandchildren and my daughter, I get to see all this stuff on full display because little children have no filters. Everything's just out there. And it happens quickly.
Yes.
So, like Mercury in Aries, like all of a sudden there's a big argument or someone's yelling at someone, and it happens like that. That's very Mercury in Aries. It's quick and the slightest thing can trigger it. And then it's all over again.
Yes.
That's the other thing about Mercury in Aries. If you watch fire signs, if they get like angry or fired up, it's usually over very quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. They don't hold on to it.
No, because they've gotten it out. They've
gotten it out.
Yeah.
And it's immediate. It's in the moment.
Generally.
Generally. There can be other things in the chart, of course. Nothing's ever that straightforward. Mercury goes into Taurus on April the 11th and will be there for about 3 weeks or so.
Okay.
I didn't check exactly. It could be 3 to 4 possibly. So Mercury in earthy, pragmatic, practical, grounded Taurus, and all of us, I can already hear it. I'm beginning to speak more slowly.
Yes.
Because Taurus is a very different energetic. It's much more slow, steady, considered, grounded. Taurians, it's not a fast moving sign.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So Mercury in Taurus people might frustrate an Aries, for example, because Aries is in a hurry, but Mercury in Taurus isn't. It will take its time to think about what it's going to say. But that can be kind of a nice break in a way, like the mental energy starts to slow down, calm down, get a bit more grounded, a bit more steady.
Yes. Yeah, I have a friend who's a Taurus, and she's very stable.
Very stable.
Stable person, industrious and gets things done, but very stable, doesn't walk fast.
That's right.
Yeah, but move along, and it's like this sensation, experiencing the sensation of even walking, that
Exactly.
sensual movement and being in the environment and watching the birds and
That's true.
smelling the air, feeling the wind on the face, all that. Yeah.
And if Mercury's there, they will actually speak about it. Yeah, I have my elder sister is Sun conjunct Mercury in Taurus. And if I go out somewhere with her, she's go, look at the color of that rock, she's saying. And she's communicating what she's observing around her in the natural world, like very perceptive and like she notices what's going on in the natural world. Or, oh, hear that bird,
Yeah.
Whereas Aries wouldn't do that because Aries is in too much of a hurry. It doesn't really pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. So our minds can turn to practical things, to money matters. Thinking, what am I going to do about that financial issue? Or I better get my finances in order.
Yeah.
Great time for that. April the 12th, this is just the exact date, but around that week or two, Saturn will make an exact square to the nodes, to north and south nodes of the moon, which are in Taurus and Scorpio. That's quite strong. The south node is currently in Scorpio for these next, for all of this year and half of next year. South node's in Scorpio and the north node's in Taurus. That's a strong nodal axis.
Yeah.
When the south node's in Scorpio, that can really bring up a lot of old dark material, from underground, from the underworld, from the unconscious, from the past, from our psyche, from old karmic material that has been hidden in the shadows. It's a strong nodal axis when the south node's in Scorpio and the north node's in Taurus. We've talked about that before, like earlier in the year when the nodes came into the sun. So one of the antidotes, if you like, is to get very grounded in the physical, in the practical world, in nature, in the garden, and so on, as a healing sort of practice.
And compost all that stuff.
Compost.
Yeah.
Exactly. All that like old toxic stuff.
Yes.
It's all this old toxic stuff that has to be purged.
Yes. Yeah.
When the south node's in Scorpio, and all the deep anxiety around all that, and survival anxiety, like, oh my God, something terrible is going to happen. We're all going to die. Is a very Scorpio south node sort of anxiety. And Taurus says, no, just, calm down, get grounded. We can do this.
Yep.
Just one step at a time, get practical. So Saturn squaring the strong nodal axis is quite strong. And in the world, I think a lot of things are going to be really coming up very strongly around this period. I think it's another level of us all collectively facing some tough realities about the world we live in.
Yeah.
I really do, because Saturn's like that. When Saturn's pushing up hard against something, it says, this is real, this is reality, deal with it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't let us off the hook.
Yeah, reality check, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The way it is, get used to it.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no escape. You've got to deal with this. It's in our face. That's right. So that is quite strong, looking at having to come to terms with harsh realities, including in our own personal reality too.
Yes.
really coming to terms with things. Now, the following day, and again, this is a very important thing that astrologers have been talking about all year. It's probably the main story of 2022. The exact date, on April the 13th, there is a conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces at 23 degrees and 58 minutes of Pisces. So almost 24 degrees.
Yep.
So there's a lot to say about this.
Yeah.
Now, approximately every 13 years, the planet Jupiter, which moves more quickly than Neptune, comes together, catches up with slower moving Neptune. But it hasn't done this in Pisces. I had to write it down because I forget these things.
Yep.
It hasn't done this in Pisces for 166 years. The last time that occurred was in 1856.
Wow.
And apart from that, there's another reason why this is so powerful, is that Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, is in Pisces and has been for some years, slowly moving through Pisces, its own sign, so it's really powerful here. Jupiter is also an old traditional ruler of Pisces. It is the old traditional ruler of Pisces. So Jupiter, a ruler of Pisces, meets Neptune, ruler of Pisces, in Pisces. So the last time that happened was in 1856. So there is so many different ways this can manifest. And I since yesterday, like this just sort of came to me, I've started posting just basically memes that I come across on Facebook that, to me, through my astrological lens, see has a relationship to this energy. And even though, you know, I'm about 2 weeks ahead, it's already, I mean, it's been influencing us for the last month or so. They've been slowly coming together. Jupiter's been slowly moving towards Neptune. And that this date, the 13th, it's exact. So there's many different ways this can express, you know, that you can't just say it's about one thing. So things like oil prices, you know, there's all, because Neptune and Pisces rules oil and gas and drugs and pharmaceuticals and alcohol. And one of the things that Jupiter does, Jupiter exaggerates, expands, increases more. It becomes big, 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 big. And Neptune and Pisces are boundless and boundary-less. This is a hugely expansive energy that virtually knows no limits. Now, spiritually, that can be extraordinary. So on a spiritual level, this conjunction that's really playing out strongly through the whole of April, but it's exact on the 13th. On a spiritual level, can be absolutely extraordinary. It can open us up and elevate us to other levels of consciousness. Like words like grace and benediction come to mind. You know, in a state of meditation, things could just open up to the most sublime states of universal consciousness that we could barely imagine, right? But on another level, this energy can also highlight deception, confusion, mayhem, chaos, you know, psychological disorders. It can be very challenging in some ways. Another thing I think is that it's really highlighting things like grief and loss, because Pisces, more than any other sign, is a sign through which we feel sorrow, loss, and grief, you know, and emotional pain. It's a sign where we can release a lot of emotions and old grief and so on. And in the collective field, that energy has been building for some years with Neptune going through Pisces.
Yes, yes.
People are feeling overwhelmed, they're grieving, exhausted, it feels like there's no way out of this incredible mess that the world is in. It's overwhelming. And, you know, people are suffering, people are struggling, you know, just the floods in our corner of the world, you know, the exhaustion from all of that. So I think that's one of the big expressions of this.
The other thing I'm think about is like when things just keep expanding and they're boundaryless, order and structure disappear.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like the world has lost the plot.
Yeah.
That sort of feeling, you know, which many people I speak to go, what the heck? What? Are you kidding me? You know, so you've got all this.
That's right.
You know, this extreme political correctness, right?
That's right.
Which we were talking about earlier today. And all these crazy things where males are identifying as females and now winning swimming championships, and like you go, really? Are you kidding me? Like, how ridiculous. And things are being removed from our history because it's culturally inappropriate, and oh my God. And you know, it's the whole cancel culture and all that sort of stuff. So people are running around going, this lost the plot.
That's right. It's a kind of psychosis, and you know, one of the things this is about is spells and hypnosis and propaganda and what is real and what is true.
Yeah.
And this field of, like, you know, in the old Vedic Indian tradition, they speak of Maya, that this world is all pure illusion. It's a dream. You know, is this like the movie The Matrix? You know, what's real? What's the dream?
Yeah, it's menticide.
Yes.
Menticide, they call it. Yeah.
Yes. So this is part of this territory that we're in. And I think at some point, you know, many of us will have had experiences like this where we've been in a state of just such overwhelm and bewilderment and feeling so lost and in a state of absolute despair that something in us gives up. And I don't mean give up in a collapse way, but just like literally, what's that phrase? Like handing it over to God, just going, I can't do this anymore. I can't figure this out anymore.
Surrender.
We surrender and we open up to something else, and all of a sudden something, and that's what I meant by grace, you know, grace and benediction, something else happens because we realize that actually I can't figure this out on my own anymore, or I can't do this myself, or it's beyond me.
Yes.
It's beyond that small ego me identity.
Yeah.
So there's a lot here. There's a lot, and there's no knowing how any individual is going to experience this.
Yes.
You know? Pay attention to dreams, pay attention to intuition, to what you're being guided, what's moving, you know. Some people really pay attention to signs, all kinds of signs, you know, pay attention, notice. It gets very subtle. But Jupiter can really exaggerate things too. I think we're going to see more of like, what the hell?
Yes.
What was that? You know, like just can hardly believe that's just happened sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. 13th of April, people, pay attention.
Yes. Also, one of my favorite things is, you know, expect a miracle before breakfast. Really, extraordinary miracles can happen here as well.
Yeah.
If we're open to that, you know, prayer, meditation, miracles, angelic visitations, things happening in your dreams, like truly extraordinary things. This is a very, on that spiritual level, a very high energy. And we were talking before about light, weren't we?
Yes. Yes.
Conversation about that.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing many people speaking about that, and we're actually noticing visually. Just remove that. Light, like the light, something's happening with the light.
And I was commenting that the last couple of very early mornings, that when I'd gotten up, that I found that, because we're recording this 3 days before the new moon, but there seemed to be a lot of light in the sky, so much so, which it looked like moonlight, but you wouldn't expect this close to a new moon. But I could see the silhouettes of the trees around and the houses of the roof. Sorry, roofs of the houses. And I'm thinking that's just too bright, far too bright for this close to a new moon.
Yeah. And then I was saying, I look out my office window and I've got a wonderful view. There's trees and it's a beautiful street. And I've commented a few times to the people around me, my God, look at the light. Like I'm noticing there's something about the quality of light. So that's interesting. Like these things are real. And it's very interesting with this Neptune-Jupiter conjunction. You know, it's so mutable. Shape-shifting comes to mind. We talked about shamans before, like shape-shifting. Whoa. You know, like really, it's quite, it can be a tremendous time of healing too, like emotional release and great time to be having healing sessions. If any of you do that, or therapy sessions, like things are really open, can be a really powerful time in that regard. But, you know, as we've also said, flooding, you know, Jupiter in Pisces conjunct Neptune is also just lots of water, a lot of water.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, the prediction is that this wet weather that we're having in this area of Australia on the East Coast is going to continue right through April.
That's right.
And I think that's when, because we've got with that Neptune conjuncting Jupiter in Pisces, you've got things like tsunamis. You know,
that's right.
Lots of watery things going on.
That's right. It has a kind of, well, it really does have a tidal wave energy about it. And that can be a tidal wave of spiritual energy, of emotions, of feelings, of water itself, literally.
Yes.
You know, so there might be more major water events around the planet.
Yeah. But as usual, the planets are right on schedule because we're seeing it manifest on planet Earth, aren't we?
That's right. And then there's that whole issue of, you know, even around the flooding, like what's actually causing that? You know, what's actually real here? What's going, because these events seem so unusual. And
I hear hints of a conspiracy.
Yeah, possibly. So, you know, this is all the realm of this, but of course the reality is that the water is happening, however it's being, whatever is causing it. The reality on the ground is that there's a lot of water causing a great deal of damage and loss and overwhelm and exhaustion and grief.
Yes.
A lot of people.
Yes. And on that grief and loss, I mean, people have died.
Yes.
Yeah, just too recently in Southeast Queensland.
Yeah.
Last couple of days. So yeah.
Yeah, and people losing everything. And it's already been a tough couple of years, and then this on top of it, you know. It's a great deal. Then on April the 15th, two interesting things happen. It's kind of very interesting to me that this is all happening around the time of the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. The black moon Lilith comes out of Gemini, where she's been for the last 9 months, and goes into the water sign of Cancer.
Okay.
And on the same day, Mars leaves Aquarius and goes into the water sign of Pisces.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So there's a lot of water energy here.
Yeah.
You know, so the black moon Lilith is in a sign for 9 months, and she's got a lot to do with the divine feminine power, the oppression and repression of the feminine, and how that manifests through the different signs. In Cancer, it has a lot to do with the mother principle, nurturing children, babies. So it can bring up a lot of issues around that very, very strongly. And then Mars going into Pisces is an interesting one, because Pisces is not a sign that Mars feels particularly comfortable in. You know, Pisces is all sensitive and feeling and imagination, and Mars is pure action. So the image I often get when Mars goes into Pisces, and it'll be there for about 6 weeks, is like it's time for the warrior perhaps to have a rest, to take a break, to lay down his sword, you know, or or go about the battle in a different way. It can also be the spiritual warrior, or using more intuition to fight the battle. Whatever anyone listening to this, whatever you hear when you hear the word fighting the battle, it can mean many things.
Yes.
That warrior energy that takes action and steps into the fray, wants to move things forward in Pisces, has to move very, very intuitively.
Yes.
And it might mean letting go of the plan that it originally had and going, okay, we have to adapt to a new circumstance now.
Yeah.
And feel our way intuitively, or be guided by a higher power in some way even.
Because when that fiery energy hits that water, it's just like,
yeah,
it's just like steam then. So
that's right.
It's hard for that Mars to get into action, isn't it?
That's right. But it's going to act in a very different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can stir up a lot of emotions as well. Like, anger can be triggered in a very highly emotional way when Mars is in Pisces. Yeah. But it can also be like, sometimes I've met this with people with Mars in Pisces. Mars is what motivates us to take action. It can also motivate and act us to actually do something about our spiritual practice, or to actively get involved, or actively really participate in some kind of spiritual endeavor or spiritual practice. To put our energy there. Mars is our energy. To put our energy there in some way.
Yes. Yeah.
And then that will lead us to the full moon on April the 17th.
Yep.
Sun in Aries opposite the full moon in Libra, which will both be square to Pluto. So we'll have a lot to say about that.
Full moon in Libra.
Full moon in Libra, square Pluto.
Oh, square Pluto. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. There's always so much going on.
This time when you've gone through those 2 weeks, I feel, actually the month, 2 weeks. I usually we get to the end of it and I go, wow, I just feel so tired. But this time I feel intrigued. Intrigued to see how it will play out, intrigued and curiosity. Yeah. Because everything can go either way.
They can, and we've come out, we're sort of coming to the end of March now, and it's been a very Neptunian, Piscean time. And, a lot of people are just feeling just quite wiped out, actually. But now we're coming into the Aries energy. And so there is a sense of, okay, let's, we're moving forward, where there's a new energy coming in very strongly. So I think, for everyone to look at what does that mean for you? What new path are you taking? What new steps are you taking?
Yeah.
And that can be in your relationship, to do with your work, to do with your health, to do with all kinds of things, whatever, depending on where Aries is in your birth chart too, what house that's in. Activated there.
Yeah. I'm just looking in the Christian tradition, the full moon in Libra falls on Easter Sunday, as it always does. It's a full moon at Easter time. So that's interesting. So when families get together, squaring Pluto. Yeah.
Themes of
death
and resurrection.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and new life and afterlife and so on and so on.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, there you have it, everybody. Babula has imparted her astrological wisdom to us once again. So thank you, Babula, for joining us and joining.
Always a pleasure.
Everyone. And remember, everyone, if you enjoyed this particular video or any others, please like it. Remember to like it and subscribe to the channel so you get notices of when we upload next time. So until then, until the full moon in Libra, let's wish everyone a happy Easter, whether you celebrate it or not. Enjoy your break from work or whatever it is that you're doing and getting together with family. and stay safe and stay happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Cheryl. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, everyone.